On March 13, 2026, the U.S. military launched precision strikes against more than 90 targets across a 5-mile strip of coral in the Persian Gulf. Right now, 2 Marine Expeditionary units, specialized in amphibious assaults, are deployed to the Middle East, while the 82nd Airborne Division and elements of Delta Force prepare for a potential ground operation. Iran has blockaded the Strait of Hormuz, choking off 20% of global oil. The blockade triggered a financial shockwave, with crude prices violently blowing past $120 a barrel, despite massive releases from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Washington's assault on this remote island has a very specific objective. They are executing a desperate counter-leverage operation to seize the single most powerful financial lever over the Iranian regime and force the strait back open. The target is Kharg Island. It sits in shallow, scorching water 15 to 20 miles off the coast of mainland Iran. It is heavily militarized, built on ancient hard coral, and roughly 1/3 the size of Manhattan. This infographic illustrates the sheer scale of its operation. Nearly 90% of all Iranian crude exports funnel through this tiny landmass, processing up to 2.4 million barrels every single day. The reason so much oil is forced through Kharg comes down to pure geology. Iran's mainland coastline is entirely too shallow to support the massive draft required by modern supertankers. To get around this, engineers pump almost all of the country's crude production through a network of underwater pipelines that run across the seabed, connecting the mainland directly to Kharg's unique deep-water jetties. There is no backup facility capable of handling this volume. If you disable the infrastructure on Kharg, you effectively unplug the entire Iranian nation from the global economy. The volume of energy trapped beneath Iran is staggering. Their proven oil reserves sit at an estimated 208.6 billion barrels, placing them among the top 5 oil-producing nations on Earth. The cash generated by selling that crude is the primary financial engine for the state. It pays for their domestic security apparatus, it funds their nuclear program, and it arms regional proxy militias from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen. Cut off the oil, and the money stops. Whoever dictates the flow of tankers out of Kharg Island controls the financial oxygen keeping the Iranian regime alive. The strategy the U.S. military is preparing to execute mirrors exactly what Washington did in Venezuela. It is an exercise in economic warfare designed to force a government into submission. The goal is not to permanently occupy territory. The objective is to choke off a nation's supply of hard foreign currency, creating immense internal pressure until you hold absolute negotiating power. By seizing Kharg, the U.S. acquires the ultimate trump card. They can offer a simple ultimatum to whoever is running Tehran: reopen the Strait of Hormuz or watch your national economy collapse entirely. There is another player watching this island closely. Despite strict global sanctions, China has quietly positioned itself as the sole major buyer of Iran's discounted crude. If the U.S. seizes or neutralizes the Kharg terminal, it abruptly severs Beijing's secure energy pipeline. Without that massive daily influx of cheap oil, China loses its primary buffer against global price spikes, leaving its energy security entirely exposed. Capturing Kharg actively pulls the levers of global energy influence out of Beijing's hands and places them firmly back in Washington. But executing this takeover is incredibly dangerous. To capture and hold Kharg, former NATO commanders warned that the U.S. Navy and Air Force would need to maintain ironclad superiority over a 100-mile radius around the island. Because the Iranian mainland is a mere 15 miles away, U.S. Marines on the ground, along with thousands of civilian oil workers, would be highly exposed to relentless short-range drone swarms launching constantly from the coast. Landing troops on the coral is only step one. Holding the facility could easily trigger a multi-week siege, rapidly draining critical U.S. missile defense stockpiles at a time when military resources are already stretched thin. A successful siege would create a catastrophic domino effect. If Kharg's storage buffer goes offline, J.P. Morgan analysts warn it would immediately trigger forced upstream shut-ins across Iran's major southwest mainland oil fields. When you stop pumping at the source, wells can be damaged permanently. Up to half of Iran's total national output of 3.3 million barrels a day could be wiped off the map, perhaps irreversibly. This leaves Washington with a terrifying strategic paradox. Even if the U.S. successfully corners the regime, There is no guarantee the Iranian leadership will capitulate. They might simply call the bluff and destroy their own pipelines before surrendering them. Control over Kharg Island will decide the Middle East's balance of power, China's future energy security, and the global economic order.